Black cisgender heterosexual identified men are killing Black trans women. Black ones.
We are not talking about it in the church.
Those street guys are already engineers. If they're mixing drugs and stuff together, they're chemical engineers.
If you're just like, yeah, let's kill 50 cops just because, that's only a fraction of the Black people that they killed. Wait, now you're talking about my wife.
For those of you who are joining in, we are talking about just the housing in the Black community and owning property, why it's important, and how to get yourself in there.
When I think of financial literacy, I just don't think of the classroom work. I think some of it is practical application.
I'm scared, especially, calling them to arms, talking about poll workers or poll watchers. That is rooted in history of voter suppression and intimidation.
Joe Biden needs to make that a part of his educational platform.
Call that shit out.
I don't see much value in you speaking in tongues, and yet when you speak in English, you don't say nothing for my people.
Many of the reasons why we're dying is because of the conditions we live under that cause our health to be so bad, and that cause it's the food, it's the water, it's clean that shit up first.
When their fathers had prostate cancer, I had like a 150% chance of getting cancer, being diagnosed with cancer. I had a friend that did a raw vegan diet, 20 years remission, had thyroid cancer, never had surgery. I'm like, that's what I'm doing.
This week in Black People Shit, where's our 40 acres? Getting our house in order. I'm your host, Chrystee Pharris. Since the arrival of Africans to America, housing insecurity has been an issue for Black people in this country because in many ways, home ownership is the foundation to Black economy growth, and the obstruction to it has been a century-long struggle. From redlining, gentrification, brain fart this afternoon, almost said morning. Listen, even seizing land by mob rule, the lack of home ownership has been a central issue in the Black community. Today, I have with us real estate experts Chenee Coleman and Yolanda Carroll from Coleman Carroll Properties of Southern California to explain the obstacles Black Americans are facing when trying to obtain property and how they can overcome them. With me, as always, is actress Janora McDuffie and writer Abdul Majid. All right, let me bring them on. Hey, my friend.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. But please,
What's going on?
Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode. And if you'd like to participate in the conversation, I invite you to join us in the chat because we'd love to hear from you. But first, last week, several rappers caused a stir on social media with their political take on this upcoming election. The Trump administration revealed that Ice Cube was in talks with them about his contract with Black America. 50 Cent said he was voting for Trump after seeing Joe Biden's tax plan. And Diddy launched a Black political party called Our Black Party in response to his dissatisfaction over our current two-party system. What are your thoughts on what these brothers are trying to do? First of all, welcome everybody who is out there. Thank you for joining us. And let's start with you, Abdul, since we always start with Janora. What are your thoughts on these three brothers?
And because I would get a rebuttal back from Janora. So 50 Cent from the door, I think he was trolling. I don't take anything he says seriously, so I just dismiss that. The Our Black Party, I like the idea. I want to see what happens next. I understand his frustration with our two-party system. So I have a wait and see with that particular one, but I appreciate the idea. It's not the first of its kind. Through history for Black people, we've always had a political party that we try to surround ourselves in. I want to see if this one particularly works. With Ice Cube, I was happy. I actually liked what he did. I appreciated his efforts. I've read all three plans. I read the plan to contract, the contract with Black America. I read the Biden lift every voice or plan, and I read the Platinum Plan. I understood what Ice Cube was doing. I even understood the timing of it. I think in a day and age where neither party has done right by us historically. You can go through the lineage from the New Deal to, the 79 program that Strom Thurmond and Biden put together, talk about the 94 crime bill, 79 crime bill, then it was the 94 crime bill, then everything that happened under Obama. Black people have been taking a beating for a pretty long time with regards to both systems, both, Republican and Democrats. The timing of it in itself, I think you have to make a statement. I think you have to make a point that he's not for either party. He's solely in it for the well-being of Black people. I don't think he was doing it just to try to get some points for himself because no one spoke about the fact that he helped California pass their the reparations bill. What is it? HR AB 3121. The reparations
29.
bill that 21. It's 3121.
Okay, on my notes I got 3129, but either way, that's just a small part of what we're talking about. But we are on the same team and page.
So yes, the point I'm making is that I don't think he's doing it for himself. I don't think he's in it for anything for himself. The timing of it, I was fair with. I think that when you're an independent political party or an independent person trying to get something happening for Black people, you got to be willing to talk to anybody at any time, whenever. So that's my thoughts on it for now. I did not like all of the false claims that he helped put the Platinum Plan together and that he was on Trump's team and all the other nonsense that were coming about it. But I appreciated what he was doing and I respect him for it because at least he's trying something.
Right. What about you, Janora?
Well, first off, shout out Tangerine. Welcome weekly. Sister, we love you. Okay.
Joseph every week for coming on. Kim for coming on.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, let's start from the top. We're talking first about 50 Cent. Abdul, you said you thought he was trolling. I don't. I think he had a legitimate point in terms of feeling some kind of way about the tax plan, right? We know that there will be a higher tax when it comes to people who make a lot of money. And for him, his reaction was, oh, hell no. So I don't think he was trolling. But I do think that he does not understand that his words specifically to all of his followers, the platform that he has horrible repercussions. Because one, people don't read for themselves. So a lot of times, whatever one person says, they just take it and go for it. I actually had a conversation 2 days ago. So this is relevant. And this is why I actually thought that 50 Cent had a point in terms of just how he felt about the tax law. I was sitting in a place socially, responsibly distanced, and there was a brother beside me that I did not know, but we struck up a very good conversation, and somehow politics came in. I try not to speak about politics to folks I don't know or, on the first meeting. The whole point was he said that at the end of the day, he votes for the person who's gonna take care of his home. Like if I can bring more home, that's who I'm gonna vote for. He said, you can call me whatever you wanna call me, but it's what I answer to. And what's most important for me is taking care of my family, right? So the T name of Orange Man never came up, but I knew what he was alluding to. And because we had such a nice introductory conversation, it made me take pause to figure out how I felt about what the brother was saying, because I get it, right? I get it. But what 50 Cent and what this brother doesn't take into account is that, yes, your family, yes, your unit, but you are so dissing so many other marginalized communities, or not even marginalized communities, just people in general, by going for that administration. And not even just people. For example, all right, I'm protecting my family and we're going to be good at home, but the sky is falling because I voted for somebody who doesn't even care about climate change or the earth. So I just think in 2020 for this election, we have to have a greater sense of what it means for all of us. Because I think if we just continue to think about money over morals or money and me, and making this a us and a them, and I mean you versus me and not a us, we're going to continue to just be in this space, which is a great leeway to Diddy's plan. So Abdul, I interpreted Diddy's plan a little bit differently. I didn't see it as a completely separate party. I think he was just talking about a plan, just kind of like Ice Cube's contract with Black America plan. I felt like his whole our Black party was, he said, was not a Democrat party. It was not a Republican party. It's just about, this is what's best for my people. And I'll talk to either person, similar to what Ice Cube was saying. I didn't think it was his own independent party, but just like a collection of people and ideas that support Black folks. And in his interview with Revolt, he said specifically, so Ice Cube is just like similar, not Democrat, not Republican. Let's just get Black folks on the somebody's agenda, and this is what we want to do. With Diddy, he was like, no, this election is about love and hate, and we cannot choose hate. And that's what he felt like Trump was representing. Right. And so I appreciated a brother talking about love and hate in a context that most men don't talk about emotions when it comes to politics, right? I just think that's me and my rainbows and roses. So it was nice to hear somebody else put in and infuse like love and hate as what we are up against when it comes to this coming election. So yay, Diddy, who would have thought that coming from me? Because sometimes outside of the Bad Boy reunion tour, I give Diddy the side eye. And finally,
go ahead.
Oh no, and just quickly with Ice Cube. Abdul, I knew you were going to go all in for Ice Cube, but because he was so unapologetic about who this is for. He was like, no, this is not for people of color. No, this is not for minorities. This is for the Black people. And I know that's what you stand for all day, Abdul. My issue is looking at the source that he is meeting with. Trump ain't nothing but a crook and a liar. And I'm not saying that out of being a hater. He has proven himself to be that over decades. So why does Ice Cube think that his time with Trump is going to be taken for anything more than a publicity stunt? And 3 weeks before the election, especially when there are folks who are still undecided that look like us. Well, no, they don't look like Black women. Black women, we know, but they look like you, Abdul. And so I think that he is being used as a tool. And I know Ice Cube was like, use me or not. I mean, he felt like he was going to be exploited by the other side if he had a conversation with them. But I just don't trust nothing he said. And if Trump really wanted to do stuff for Black folks, he had 4 years to do it. And so he just no. So
okay,
yes, that's my comments.
Tangerine, she said, when you gonna sell me some of that hair? KC said, she said, hell no. And so of course, Tangerine, I vote with my dollar. Chris, thank you for coming back. And somebody definitely agreed with you. So my take on everything is, I don't know if you guys have read 50 Cent's. He has a book called the 50th Law.
50th Law.
Yeah.
I read
so,
it. Yeah.
So I remember reading it and remember thinking, wow, this man is really about himself. Like, he's all about the business, but it is about himself, which for me, my interpretation of the book, like basically don't trust nobody, his whole thing. So I'm not surprised for him to say, yo, it's about taxes, it's about me. And because they said in California, they're going to raise it, according to something I saw, said that they would raise the taxes 62% for the rich. So I'm not surprised that he would think that way, because that's how he presents himself. It really is all about him, how he makes fun of people and everything else. As far as 50 Cent, I was watching Roland Martin when he was on Roland, just to get another perspective of his thoughts. And I love what Roland brought out. He was like, yeah, you know, they made it seem like you were the one who kind of came up with a lot of these ideas, but Ice Cube said he was just adding on. But when Roland Martin broke down everything for Trump's plan, he was like, it is not for Black people. It is for a lot of people. And there's really nothing very specific about it. So it made me go, are we really getting anywhere? And the other thing is that there's so many other organizations that have also tried to get a plan to both parties, but especially to Trump. and nobody's acted on it. So that was another good point that I thought was that people need to realize. This isn't the first time somebody has brought something to the Trump administration. They brought it to him back when he first got in office, and he still hasn't done anything. And Trump, like you said, Janora, you can't really trust anything he's saying. I mean, he tried to appeal to the elders who need prescription by saying, we'll give you $200 for your prescription plan and all that to help, get your prescriptions. So, which they said was illegal for him to do that a couple of weeks prior. And then as far as Diddy, I am curious to see how everything will work out with this party. The difference between him and 50 Cent is, even though Diddy has just as much money as 50 and they're in the same tax bracket, Diddy is still about the people. Diddy is still voting as a Democrat, and he's not voting based on his money and his house. He's voting based on, everyone in general. So that was my take on everybody's perspective.
Can I respond to Janora?
I knew it was coming. I almost was going to let you do it first, but go ahead.
So you keep bringing this our thing, like the Democrat Party's for our, and it's never for our. It's them, and then there's us. Because if you look at any administration, whether it be the Clinton administration, whether it be the Carter administration, whether it be the Obama administration, you can go all the way back to the New Deal. There's always something that cuts us out of it and leaves us at the bottom, every single time. So I don't know where this our thing comes from, because there's really no reciprocation with regards to how we vote collectively for the Democratic Party and how we're treated in return. Brothers went to jail for the 94 crime bill. Black people lost their shirt under Obama, lost their homes left and right. You go back to the New Deal, where there was cutouts for the New Deal for people who worked in agriculture and people who worked in the service industry that were black. Those were black people. So we keep talking this collective our, and I don't see the our. You go even back to Lyndon Johnson when he was signing the Civil Rights Act. He was a Democrat who tried to kill the deal. A guy by the name of Howard Smith, who was the one trying to kill the deal. He was a Dixiecrat, I believe they call him, a Democrat from Virginia, from the South. He was part of that segregation. He was a segregationist. So I don't understand where this our thing comes from. I think that we need black people. Hold on, let me finish. I think black people need to collectively join our interests the same way every other group does their interests. Diddy's thing is no different than AIPAC, where they have a collective of people together who lobby for the benefits of that group of people. And I'm for that. And if it's a Democrat or Republican or Libertarian or socialist or whomever, I'm for it if it's for the upliftment of black people, because time and time again, we put our interests, align ourselves with a group of people, and we never get anything by it. I think, like, if you look at any metrics let's go from the New Deal to now, we're always on the bottom. There's no reason why we're 13% of the population and 40% of the homeless population. Mm-hmm. Why there's almost 1 million black men in jail. Why our education system in the black community is the worst. And we're only 13. Why there's no reason why we don't only get bank loans from majority of these banks, like 1% of the loans that go out that go to us. Those are my issues with the Democratic Party, is that we show up every time and they don't reciprocate our needs.
And that was the thing that they were saying about the plan, is that it was not it's even though it makes it seem like it's supposed to be this for black people, it's really not. And I think that's something. What I can say, and then because we have our guests that are here and they are commenting in our private chat about our conversation that we're having right now. So I want to make sure, oh gosh, I was just about to say something about it, but we just need to make sure that it is for us. And what I think moving forward, what I see a lot of people doing is, now I feel like people are really going to be involved, that they're really going to start making changes, and they're really going to start pressuring people to make change. So I just want to bring up these comments. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, while you bring up the comments, I just wanted to, Abdul evoked my name, so I just wanted to make sure that I had a chance to respond.
Go ahead.
So I just didn't want to have that moment pass without me being able to respond for Abdul going in on me with a history lesson about the Democratic Party and different bills throughout history. And also clear up my use of the word our, because I never necessarily said our in relation to the Democratic Party. When I say our, it's my wish for humanity. It's my wish for all of us to see each other in the same boat, going toward the same goal. And what affects you affects me. So yes, as Black folks, you're fighting, and I see that you're in need. I think of it going back to that Crip camp when we had the episode with the disabled sisters on here. The people who showed up to help the disabled during their movement was the Black Panthers, because they said, if you're making the world a better place, that's what we want to, and we want to be with you. So I would just love to see our acknowledgement of our interconnectedness and not our separation. And in terms of, absolutely, Abdul, I understand, like, we get folks in office and then where you go? And I think that was part of Diddy's first plan, which went sideways, and that was let's take our vote hostage.
Yeah.
Like, y'all ain't doing something, so let's hold our vote hostage. And I'm glad he acknowledged that that was not the way to go, because the way to make change, even though it is such a murky system, is to vote, because people died for us to do that. And we still got to honor John Lewis, y'all, right? So we got to show up. So his whole our Black Party is just a part to hold the party, whoever that is, accountable to meeting our needs. So Abdul, I'm not disagreeing with you in any way. I'm just hopefully putting out there a vision for us as human beings to just see our collective self just as important. You making it is as important as me making it. I mean, granted, it's a ways to go, and I know that's idealistic, but on some sense of the level, when we show up to the voting box, let me think about somebody other than myself. That's all.
When is it going to get to a place where we have this? I mean, right now, everything that we've got accomplished, these things that have passed, these things that are supposed to help us, although it was, the Black people are the ones that were fighting for it, we didn't get a chance to benefit from it as much as everybody else, because it's under this huge umbrella. When are we going to get to a place where we really can take advantage of these things that are passing? And I think that's where the frustration comes, because I am all about everybody, but I also want to get to a place where we can finally get something that is really going to take for us, that is really for us, is going to really benefit us and take us to the next level. Because all these things that are happening, they're like, even these new plans are not really for us. It is for everybody, but we still get this much of it. So I think that's where my issue is. And go ahead, and then we're going to move on, because we want to bring our guests.
And then we're going to bring him in, and then I'll respond. I saw their comments in the box, so if they want me to respond to it, I will. But I don't understand why we want to play by different rules than everybody else. Everybody else goes, the immigrant community, and I have nothing against immigrants. My mother's side of the family are all immigrants, but they advocate for things on their behest or on their behalf. The same with the Jewish community, same with the Irish community. And I just think that we go about the business of advocating for everybody else. And then when it's time for some reciprocation for people to advocate for us, they don't. Mm-hmm. And I mean legislatively. I don't just mean like what happened this year in the streets. I mean, when HR 40 was on the dock to talk about reparations for the last 40 years, nobody was looking at it. But we showed up for DACA, we showed up for the wall, we showed up for the Muslim ban, we showed up for everything. And then when it's our time for people to advocate on our behalf, when it's time for them to be a good ally for us, no one shows up. I remember, and this will be I remember the day that the Black Caucus did a protest outside of Congress for DACA. The next day, the exact next day, and Black people showed up in droves to that particular rally. The exact next day, there was a rally for Black people for the Civil Rights Act of 1866, I believe it is. Nobody showed up. It just Black people showed up. Nobody else showed up. So my point is like, we advocate for a lot of people, and I think maybe we need to behave like everybody else and advocate on our own behalf.
I hear you, Janora. I know you want to say something, but we got to make sure we get to our guest.
I was just gonna say, just look at Black Lives Matter, though. The whole protest just recently was full of all kind of folks. So Abdul, that might have been the past, but I really think that this is the show of hope for the future. You know, I got to end on something positive.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
So Tim said, let me just get to these. Janora, me too. Sell me some of that hair. Tangerine, as much as Trump has lied, he's still the president. So I don't blame anyone for meeting with him to set some goals. Tim said, did Ice Cube honestly think either campaign would take his plan seriously a few weeks before the election? He got played. There's no way either campaign would adopt his plan on such short notice. Tangerine, yes, Chrystee, what I said, whatever, back in the 10 minutes ago.
That's not true, Tim. That's not true.
Maybe not. Okay, so our next guest. How many of you guys out there have houses, want more real estate, want to invest, all of that good stuff? So our two guests, Chenee Coleman and Yolanda Carroll, are what make up the dynamic real estate team, Coleman Carroll Properties. Based out of Los Angeles, Chenee and Yolanda serve all of Southern California from Compton to Palm Springs. Compton, y'all. Ice Cube in the house. No, okay. After spending years in corporate, Chenee and Yolanda individually entered the real estate world with their own goals for how they can contribute to helping people understand and own real estate. They share a collective passion for their clients, understanding every aspect of their buying and selling process, especially when it comes to women and minorities. Their quote, "We welcome the challenges faced when it comes to women and minorities navigating the home buying process. As Black women ourselves, we live it, understand it, and will get you through it." So over the past year, Chenee and Yolanda have collectively sold over $7 million in real estate and plan to expand their services into investment and new development opportunities. I wanted to make sure I read that bio. We usually don't read the bios that long, but I wanted to make sure people realize that these women are for people of color and getting them where they need to be. So please welcome Chenee Coleman and Yolanda Carroll. Hi.
Hey.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Great. How are you guys?
Excellent. Thanks for coming on the show. We're so
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So I just want to get started. I know that Abdul is going to definitely ask you some wonderful questions about just what's happening in the housing real estate. My first question that I have is, with this COVID situation, where are we as far as people of color, Black Americans, in buying housing, keeping our housing? Where are we? Are we in a crisis when it comes to the housing market at the moment? Who would like to take that?
I'll start, and then Chenee, you can jump in.
Yeah.
First, I just want to say the real estate market is doing really well just across the nation. And just in case, you don't know why, it's because mortgage rates are stupid low right now. They're below 3%. And then on the other hand, we have a lack of inventory. So that's creating a frenzy. Buyers are trying to go out there and take advantage of this really quickly, of these low rates. And then sellers see it and they want to sell. So it's doing really well. That's a good thing. With COVID, there's a lot of things that are going on. Some people are losing their homes, or at a risk of losing their homes because they don't have jobs. And there's a lot of people who are not. People are managing. People are buying homes during this pandemic. Not afraid to go out there and step out there. I saw a statistic yesterday that I think it was on Apple News. That was saying that less people are afraid of losing their jobs now than they were 3 months ago. So more people are just going out and buying. They're not afraid because of COVID. So Chenee can chime in on this part of it. People have been able to hold on to their homes because the government has stepped in and lenders have stepped in for to offer forbearance on mortgages and deferment on their payments. So Chenee, you want to add a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So regarding COVID right now, of course, in the beginning, I think that there was a lot of uncertainty with people, especially when it came to layoffs, furloughs, and what have you, and what can they do to save their home. So what lenders pretty much across the nation basically kind of banded together and started offering forbearance and deferment programs on homeowners' loans. What people needed to, of course, do was contact their lender directly. There were some other different sites you can go on depending on who serviced your loan, and just see what kind of options there were and seeing which one would be better for you. Both definitely pause your payments. Some will require that once that deferment or forbearance period is over, you have to pay those missed payments all at once. Some of them would allow for those payments to be tacked on to the end of your loan. Other things people were able to do were loan modifications, which with your current loan, it's either an adjustment with the rates, the terms, or the length of the loan. And if you qualify for that, it was great. And if you can hit all three, that was wonderful. And then some people opted to refinance, which is actually happening right now because the rates are just crazy low right now. People are refining for like around 2% or a little bit more. So any of those options between forbearance, deferment, loan modifications, and refinancing have been some great options to help people keep on hold on to their home.
Okay.
Yeah. And then don't forget, we did the stimulus payment once. So, I mean, that may have helped people a little bit. And I know that people like myself, self-employed people, independent contractors, especially in California, and I would say nationwide, we were able to get unemployment that was actually generous. And, you know, we also had the CARES Act that got tacked onto your state payment, which kind of held people together for quite a few months. So hopefully people put that money to use and put it towards things they needed instead of, you know, frivolous spending, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Janora?
So I think a lot of people tuning in today are excited because they want to know how to get a house, how to get into this process, how to become a homeowner. First of all, why is it important to be a homeowner? Because I know recently someone said, or recently I know the trend is maybe home ownership isn't what it used to be. And so maybe renting could be a better option because then you could pocket money and do what you want to with it or invest it. Tell us why this home ownership path is important, especially for folks of color.
All right, I'll start with that. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Home ownership is important for several reasons. The most important thing for me is that it's a great way to invest and grow wealth. And that's what we're all about, helping people grow wealth. And you can, by having your own home, it really helps, especially in places like, you know, California, New York, where it's just bananas, right? There's always an increase. So equity can be used for a lot of different things, right? You have your own, you can buy more property. You can buy investment property so that you can have passive income. You can maybe pay for college for a kid because you didn't have any other means to do that. Fix your home up to make it even more valuable. You get tax breaks up to $750,000 of a home. You can write off the interest rate for your mortgage. I mean, you can't do that when you rent. When you rent, you're paying your landlord's mortgage. There's no advantage to that. So you're gonna pay a mortgage either way. You might as well pay one for yourself. So it's just important that you can do a lot of things with that money. And I'll just give you a really good example of how it helped me. I bought my home in 2003. So that means I went through 2007, right? So everybody was, you know, supposedly their homes went upside down, but now my home is worth over half of what it was when I bought it. You can't,
wow.
You can't make that kind of money anywhere else, I guess. I mean, people can invest in stocks, but the stock market's a heck of a lot more volatile. So I just, renting, in my opinion, you're throwing your money away. I have this chart that I show my buyers. I have all these different rent payments from anywhere from $1,800 to $3,200, and then the years going across the top and showing how much money they spent and gave to their landlord, where they could have been using that as a down payment or building equity in their home. So it's huge.
Yeah, but how do you do that if you don't have the? I'm sorry, I'll let you
go ahead.
Continue. But I'm curious to know. I think a lot of people feel like, well, I don't have the money to save because I have to pay my rent. So how do you finally make that transition from paying rent and buying that home? Because it's not like you can just move in with somebody to save that money that you would have been paying, that $3,000.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
How do you make that happen?
Mm-hmm. I'll tack on that a little bit. Now, we'll say that
Perfect.
Just to add on to something Yoli was saying about equity, we purchased a home literally a year ago, and we've probably gained about $100,000 in equity since. And we're in the Valley. And we got in at a good time. So I'm very happy about that. So it's just to know it's very possible. And then to kind of answer your question, between my wife and I, we didn't have a whole bunch of money saved at all. Some options that people can look into. If you have family with money, they can gift you money. It can be $1,000, $2,000, $10,000, $300,000 or whatever. Family, friends can gift you money. If you have a 401k that you're contributing to, you can do a hardship. I think they call it a hardship loan out of your 401k. But the good thing about it, it's a loan you're taking out from yourself, and you wind up paying yourself back anyway. So you can do it with a hardship loan withdrawal, a hardship loan or a withdrawal from your 401k. Each company is going to be different. And they allow, or pretty much saying that you can do that without the penalties, because they know people do it all the time. You can borrow to put a down payment on a car, a house, or just a major life expense.
And if you have neither one of those, if you have no family and you have no 401,
right?
So how do you make this happen?
One thing you did say, there are a small population of people that are living with some family and friends to save money. But other than that, there's nothing wrong with saving. It's very, there's a lot of programs out there, and I'll hit up one right now since we're kind of on that subject. To afford a home and you don't have a lot of money to put down or whatever, there's FHA loans that require only 3.5% down. There's the NACA program that people can log on to that site, check it out. They pay for your closing fees, all your fees. Interest is 2.2% or maybe a little bit lower. You do have to go on to a workshop for 4 hours through the website. It's online now, because before you'd have to go in person. Thanks to COVID, you can do it from home. A lot of great things about the program. There is one caveat. You do have to not have late payments for the previous 12 months on anything. But they've got some good information, and I can definitely share a little bit more about that later. But yeah, it really just takes talking to a realtor and partnering with a lender that's going to be able to explain all the programs, because it is very possible to do little money down, no money down, getting closing costs paid, down payment paid for, so it's not impossible.
Okay. So just so you guys know, I'm posting in the chat. Yolanda is over here hooking us up with a few things, so you can check that out. Go ahead, Abdul.
Yeah, so I know that a lot of people nowadays, a lot of Black people, want to invest in commercial properties. What are your thoughts on opportunity zones? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I'm personally not sold on it, but what are your thoughts on opportunity zones? Is it something that Black people should get into, or is it another way to be able to invest in the Black community that'd be more beneficial to them and us in the process?
I'll take that one, Chenee. I think opportunity zones I'm not an expert in it, but I think that they are a really good way to go in order to invest in Black neighborhoods. So there's a whole map, like if you Google opportunity zones, they'll show you maps of where these are. And the good thing about it is you get the builders or developer or whoever you are, gets huge tax breaks for building in those opportunity zones. So I don't see the negatives yet. And like I said, I'm not an expert on it, but they appear to be really helpful to help, build and to save money and have huge tax breaks. So I don't see anything wrong with them at this point.
Yeah.
Chenee,
So do you think that
I would say with commercial right now, with COVID,
yeah, be careful.
I know that everybody's working. Well, I'd say a vast majority of people working from home. It might be a good time to snatch up some commercial property right now, because there's probably some buildings that are sitting that, I mean, I see it in my own neighborhood. I see it when I go to West Hollywood. I see it when I'm in Sherman Oaks. There's a lot of empty commercial property because people are downsizing. People are moving their workforce to home, and they're probably going to keep them there maybe for the rest of 2020, obviously, at this point, and maybe a good portion of 2021. So if people are able to kind of get out there and find a deal on some commercial property that is going to be something sustainable past COVID, hopefully, I don't see the problem with that at all.
Okay. Before you ask the next question, Abdul, how much should you have, Joseph wants to know, saved for closing costs if you don't have to put any money down using a VA loan?
About 2%, right? 2% of the sale price.
Yeah, our lender always tells us it can be as much as 3% of the purchase price, but typically it falls in that 1.5% to 2% range of the purchase price. And then the down payment you don't do. What has happened with a VA client, any VA clients of mine, they've had to submit something initially for their earnest money deposit, which is a good faith deposit on a home when you're putting it in escrow. And they get that money reimbursed or returned to them after closing, or it gets put towards their closing fees. So,
yeah. I'm sorry, Chrystee, I want to go back. Yeah, I want to address that one question. It's like when you don't have absolutely nothing. And I put a couple of things in the chat, but there are a lot of down payment assistance programs out there. And so that first link that I sent, that first website, you can go there and you can find out all kinds of different down payment assistance programs across the country. So there's a map there, and the person can click on the map and they can find out about them. So, I mean, for those who need it, there are grants and low interest homes available to people who purchase a home up to $55,000. So the money is out there. People just have to go out there and apply for it. And if they fall within the criteria, which I do not know what those are right now, but there are down payment assistance programs for people who have absolutely no money saved.
Okay. And Abdul, I know that you have a question, and just again, for those of you who are joining in, we are talking about just the housing in the Black community and owning property, why it's important, and how to get yourself in there. Go ahead, Abdul.
She just answered it, but I do have another question that made me think about it while they were both speaking. When it comes to things like how do people go around getting their house, gentrifying neighborhoods? Because I know, like in California right now, they're building a new football stadium and they're buying a lot of people's house out of their homes. And my family's from Brooklyn, and I remember when the Brooklyn Nets Barclays Center got built, they gentrified a whole neighborhood. So how do you push back or fight back against things like? Is there anything that you can do to fight back against things like that? Getting your neighborhood gentrified, or is there a collective that you can put together? Is there any programs? Is there any, or is it just you? Or is there anything we can do to stop getting us gentrified from our own neighborhoods?
So when you talk about gentrification, are you talking about just the housing, or are you talking about places of business, like what you're talking about, everything being changed? Are you talking about
I'm talking
all
about
of that?
I'm talking about all of it, but let's stick specifically to housing, because I know, like in Brooklyn, they were doing things like eminent domain because there was a cracked sidewalk, or they would, I know people were going door to door and buying those homes with cash on the table. I mean, like, I just sort of, like, I see it happening in Detroit right now. A lot of Detroit neighborhoods are being bought up by the Asian community. If you look at Brooklyn, the way Brooklyn is now, It's been completely gentrified. Is there anything that we can do to push back just to keep our own neighborhoods? I mean, Harlem is not the same anymore. They're pushing everybody back to the Bronx. Is there anything we can do to keep our own neighborhoods in terms of housing?
Abdul, I do not know the answer to that question, because gentrification, and the way I look at it, is an economics thing, right? So someone comes in and they have money, cash or whatever, to pay something. Somebody has to sell it. It's not like they're forcing them to sell it. Now, I heard you say something about eminent domain, and I'm not sure about how that. Yeah, that's a little different than what I'm thinking about. Where, like, we have Leimert Park here in Los Angeles, in South LA, and I mean, over the past 5 or 6 years, I mean, there's just been an influx of other people coming in there, and the people who were selling it were Black people. So it's not like somebody said, "Hey, you know, you've got to get out of this house." They sold it to the highest bidder. So, I mean, what do you do in that case? I don't know.
I think with gentrification, I mean, yes, it's an economics thing. I think that Black people that own property need to understand how to maybe keep it in their family, or keep it, period. And this is when, usually when I'm helping clients, I tell them, I said, when we're closing a property, you want to think about putting your property in a trust, so that if something, God forbid, something does happen to you, your property doesn't go to probate court. That's just a whole disaster in itself. So people just need to, definitely do estate planning, talk to their families and, close ones, loved ones about, if I happen to leave this world anytime soon, what are your plans for the property? If you want to sell it, okay, I'd rather you keep it, but let's talk about it. I think Black people are not having those conversations. And I know a lot of them are not doing estate planning. I just know they're not. So that's one thing, is just having a conversation with your family on how to keep your property in the family, if that's the desire. Yes, you can't make your kids keep your house if they don't want to after you're gone, but at least you've had the conversation. Yeah. Then next, I think with gentrification, I think that, anything that we can do locally, honestly, people really need to pay attention to what they're voting for and how they're voting, because there's a lot of stuff on a local and state level that will affect your community. And even with housing and how people are getting taxed, how people can purchase, and just anything. So I think that, when you go into the polls, you better go there with a handbook of next to every proposition that has something to do with housing, business, or anything in your neighborhood, because you really need to understand what you're voting on.
I'm gonna let you ask a question, Janora, but let me just jump to Joseph. Said, I'm at a crossroads because I'm now financially prepared to buy a big house in the suburbs, but my heart wants to buy in our community. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we get that all the time. Let me see his comment again. So he wants to buy in his community, but he wants to.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, honestly, explore your options. Look at what's going to be a financially sound decision in the long run. Because when you're buying property, you want to get property that's going to appreciate. You don't want to get anything that's going to lose value, obviously. So if buying in his community is going to be something that's going to be financially sound, and in 5 years, give him the equity he needs, great. If the suburbs is going to do it, great. Maybe he can finagle both. Maybe he can buy in the suburbs, gain the equity, pull that out, then buy in his community. There's ways to go about it, but it's not impossible. People are doing it all the time. So, yeah.
Did you want to say anything about that, Yolanda?
Nope, I totally agree with that. I've toyed with that idea as well. Do I want to live outside of my community? Do I want to live inside my community? I chose to be here in the community. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. It really comes down to it being a personal choice. But if you want to be financially sound, like what Chenee says, you need to sit down and evaluate which one is going to give you the most equity at the end. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes you just want to be where you want to be, and you don't mind if you lose a few $100,000.
Janora.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask something on behalf of folks who maybe are just coming in from day one, from zero knowledge base. I know you ladies have kicked so much information, maybe on the middle school, high school, college level. Let's break it down to elementary, like ABC. If I wanted to decide that I want to buy a house, where do I start? What is a realtor? When do they come in? What is a mortgage? What are you talking about with this whole closing cost thing? Can you just give us a brief, when does, if I want to buy a house, yep, ABC, super basic, high level, and then when, how it all ties together. Yes.
Well, you want to go or you want me to go?
Oh, you can go. I was about to say call us first. But anyway, no. Call any agent that you like, but no. But anyway, go Yoli. You can go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing we do is we sit down and we explain the whole process so that they can get an idea of what's going on from the time that we have our consultation to the end of escrow. So they understand that. But before we can really do anything, they have to be pre-approved. So we send them to, have our lenders call them or they call the lender just to see how much house they can afford. And then once they figure out how much they can afford, then they figure out what kind of house they want.
Quick question, not to interrupt you. What goes into a pre-approval process? Like what exactly is that?
So when you're speaking to a lender, I'm sorry. So
you got it.
And we have a great one, by the way. She's very, very good with first timers. She's basically wanting to just get an overview of your financial situation. So she may require income, proof of income, which can be pay stubs, or if you're self-employed, it'd be a 1099, or tax returns. They'll look at bank statements. They're going to look at your credit and your debt to income ratio, because that's going to determine interest rates. So that's pretty much the bulk of it. Of course, there's a loan application that you fill out and everything. I tell people, when you're speaking to a lender, have all your paperwork that they require in order and ready to go. And usually with the lender we work with, she can turn around a pre-approval in a matter of 24 hours. So, like I said, have tax returns saved at least for the past year or two, current bank statements, at least for the past couple of months, proof of income, 1099s. And I'm trying to think, of course, ID, stuff like that. But as far as the finances, that's pretty much what they're looking at and reviewing. And once they come up with a pre-approval number, that's kind of what you're going with. Now, keep in mind, when you're pre-approved for a certain amount, that doesn't mean that that's what you spend. You can be pre-approved for $900,000, but you only want to do a home that's around 6 or 7, and that's totally fine. Usually, I tell people when you're talking to the lender to tell them what you're comfortable in paying each month for a mortgage, and they kind of go off of that. So if you're paying $2,500 in rent and you think you can go to $3,500, that's kind of a good idea for where they can kind of go from with your pre-approval.
And let me just, because we're going to be running out of time, because I know everybody has a heart out. Can you just explain to everyone, and there's a couple of questions about the ratio, the debt ratio, so that they can understand how much debt they have versus, what their income that's coming in. So can you explain that a little bit so people can really understand that?
Yoli, you got some info on that? You want me to?
You got it. You go for it.
So the debt to income ratio is basically when a loan lender is looking at your full credit report, all your credit history, they're looking at how much debt you're carrying, and it's usually what you're paying out per month. Then they're looking at that in accordance to what you're making per year. So I would say if you have like a 20% debt to income ratio, you're doing great. If you're closer to like the 40s or the 50s, that's kind of high. So depending on where that ratio falls, that's going to determine how much of a mortgage you can actually afford.
Right.
So I can say from our experience, when we bought this house, our DTI was kind of high, but we still had some payments that were high on some stuff, but credit was great. But it determined that we couldn't go over $4,000 a month in a mortgage payment. And I was like, okay, if we can't do that, then the house price needs to be this, paired with our down payment, which was 5%. So.
Okay, so let me get to these last questions real quick. So someone asked, how important is credit score?
Very. It's very important. So we were talking about an FHA loan, for instance. That was one of the government-backed loans, and their minimum right now is 640. There are some places that can. There are some lenders though that will go as low as 580.
Okay.
So in order for you to get that loan, then you have to at least have a credit score of that. There's another thing too that Chenee didn't mention with the debt DTI. The number she gave you is correct, but the lender also looks at how much reserves you have. So if you have like, how much savings do you have up to 6 months, and they basically look at that to say, okay, this person has no reserves. They have great credit. What can we do? Or this person has mediocre credit, but they've got tons of money in the bank. What can we do? And so it really varies on the person.
Yeah.
And then this last question, Joseph asked, my grandparents with money just lost their property and the state sent me a letter about leftover money from the sale. Should I try to recoup that money or is it a trap?
My question to him, they left money when they passed, but my cousin's mismanaged the money. He get an attorney.
Get an attorney, Joseph. Get an attorney.
Yeah, get an attorney. And I'm curious if that property was in a trust or not. I mean, that is so tricky. I tell you, when your house is not in a trust and you die, it's just such madness afterwards. Such madness.
You brought up something earlier where you were talking about people leaving the houses for their family, and then what does the next generation do? And not on my side, but another great aunt or whatever from years ago, they got the land from their slave owner, and in the will it said they could not sell that house until their great grandchildren were of age. So they had to keep it in the family.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's something that people
do that.
Yeah. God, okay. Let me just get this last question. Please share your opinion on mobile home park.
Mobile home park living. We have some friends. We were just at their brand new mobile home park home this past weekend. Their community specifically was for 55 and older. I think there's some that are fine with any age group, but where we were was 55 and older, in like that Lomita area of LA, sort of. They paid cash for it. They're definitely a lot cheaper. I mean, the ones I've seen these days, they look like homes. You can't even tell once you walk in that you're sitting in something that's, I guess, back in the day, they call it like a double wide, sitting on a foundation. But I mean, it was a 3-bedroom, full kitchen, 2-bathroom. It was lovely. I think it was maybe $200,000. But what people have to realize is that you're paying for the land that home is sitting on. I think their land lease fee is like $1,000 a month.
Yep.
So granted, they paid in cash. That's all they're paying per month. But it's something to take into consideration. Because
you don't really own the land.
Exactly.
All right. Since everybody's got a heart. Oh, go ahead. Yes, please.
One more thing.
Please.
Cynthia Cook, I think that's whose name I saw popped up, and asked how important the credit rating is one thing that I didn't mention, and I think Chenee alluded to it earlier on. It's very important because the better your credit score, the lower your mortgage rate. So, it's a risk-based system. And so, they're sitting there and they're looking to see, how likely is this person to default on this loan? And if your credit score is great, they're going to say, okay, this person is a good risk, and you'll get a lower interest rate. So it's very, very important.
All right, let me just do this last little bit. Thank you for your information. Shabina said, this information is so important to build wealth for our family and our community. This is not always talked about, especially in our community, who historically experience redlining and loan discrimination. Thank you for this great information. And that is it. Oh my gosh, everybody's like throwing all this stuff in here right now. We usually kind of sort of sometimes run over, but we are going to have to end early because people have heart outs. They have other business to jump to. I do just want to say, should we do our Black Person of the Week? Real quick.
We should, and we should also make sure that we leave how folks can contact Coleman and Carroll Properties.
Yes. So all I'm going to do.
All us.
What were we going to say?
And we're open to consultations. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
Abdul. I didn't mean to interrupt. No, I was just saying, Yoli and I are open to consultations over the phone, obviously, or through Zoom. I mean, we can meet in person safely. But yeah, if you guys want to give us a call at any time, email us or whatever, we are more than happy to talk to you about whatever. We have so much that we haven't told you. We wrote a lot of notes.
Yeah.
But, no, we can definitely sit down. It doesn't cost you anything to talk to us about buying or selling or whatever. So we're here for you.
And how do people get in touch with you? I know right now we definitely have your IG, but is there another way that people can contact you?
Yeah. I mean,
would you like us to put it in the chat, or would you like us to say it?
You want email? You want emails, phone numbers? What's up?
Whatever you're willing to give up. A website or anything?
An email address. That's fine with us.
Okay.
But I'm on IG regularly, so if they get me through there, I'll answer.
Okay. Do you want to write it in the private chat, and I can put it in the?
Sure.
And I know Abdul has to run. He has another meeting. He is doing big.
I have a meeting.
Hi, Abdul.
Bye, Abdul.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you both for coming on. I appreciate you, Chrystee Pharris. Janora, I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
Bye.
So let me just share this with you guys, because I know that you guys would love to have this information.
And Yolanda, I know you have a heart out too. So
I do.
We want to respect your time.
Yeah.
I had a little time. I'm good. I can hang for a minute.
All right. So Yolanda, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hold on one second. Let me just make sure I got this. Okay. Yes, I have that. I will post that for you guys, and then we'll go from there. Thank you again, Yolanda. I'm going to post your information in 2 seconds. And please, if you guys want to reach out to them, they are open. Let's get this housing. Let's make this money. And then we'll go from there. All right. Thank you, Yolanda.
Thanks, Chrystee. See you, Janora. See you, partner.
All right, let me just send this. This was such a great conversation. I mean,
yeah, I know we're only scratching the surface.
You are. You're like, oh, we got so much to say. This could be like a 3-hour show.
Yes, that's what they were saying. Is there any other questions out there before we end our show? Is there anything else you guys wanted to ask why we still have her on here? And there's her contact information that's there. I think it's so important that I remember the first time I was looking to buy something, and the whole time I didn't even know that I could afford, that I could even qualify for anything.
Yeah.
Like the whole time I just was like,
right.
Really? I can actually qualify for something? Yeah. But it was just that poor mentality that I've always grown up with, that I just, and also living in California. And that was also me being on our show. Like, I just didn't know that I could do that. It wasn't until somebody explained to me, and went through all my stuff. They're like, girl, your credit is great. And you blah, 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 blah. And I was like, really? Yeah, but what about this? And, so.
I mean, buying a home is probably one of the biggest, or the biggest, life purchases you'll ever make. So I think it's kind of, it gets overwhelming and daunting to think about it. And you think you need all this money in your firstborn to put a down payment, and you just don't. I mean, like we said, there's 0 down payment programs, down payment assistance, low down payment. I mean, we only did 5% on ours. And we, we didn't have it all at once. I mean, we got lucky because we were in a new construction, and it took us, it was 5-month process of getting, signing the paperwork to move in. So we had time to save, but I mean, we had people giving us money. Whatever I made in commissions from sales, I just banked it. I mean, if we got a little rebate check from somebody for $2.50. We put that in the bank. I mean, we were just, we weren't eating ramen noodles and stuff, but we were a little bit more conscious about our spending, which I would say that with anything you do. If you want to buy a nice car, you got to save a little bit of money. You want to buy a house, you got to save a little bit of money. And I tell people that are renting, that are afraid, and there's people that I know paying just exorbitant amounts of rent. And I'm like, are you serious? You're paying $4,000 for that? But when I kind of put into perspective, I'm like, you can have a whole house with a pool.
Right.
Maybe it'll be in the valley, but heck, we're talking 20 minutes from Hollywood. I mean, do you really go to Hollywood that much? No, you don't. And the thing with rent will increase year after year. Your mortgage won't. So I try to tell people that, yeah, your landlord could increase your rent. Your landlord could sell the property. And then you got a 30, 60-day notice.
Yeah, that happened to me once. That happened
right?
to me.
And it sucks. It really does. And it's not secure. Renting should be a short-term solution. Owning could be a long-term one.
So Mario asked, do you help with financial planning? I
absolutely do not, but I do have a great friend, a Black guy that I know. He's wonderful. I refer him out to people that want to do some planning, and he can talk you through estate planning, financial planning, what to do with your taxes, and some people not even filing correctly. So, I mean, that's a whole other conversation in itself, but I do have referrals for people that can help you.
And then Kathy said, can you possibly schedule another IG session part 2 in the future? Because they want to continue this conversation.
Yeah.
Joseph said, I need an attorney to file a lawsuit against my internet provider out here in Arizona. My signal got me going in circles. So is there any last words? Oh, wait, hold on. Your mortgage will increase some due to property taxes if you live in Cali.
Yeah. If there's some property tax changes, but in general, it's not going to be year after year after year after year. But she does have a point to a degree. But you have options of refinancing to get that payment down lower. A loan modification if needed. Forbearances and deferments. That's really honestly, if you're really, really in a financial crisis and you just can't pay. Our lender always she was telling us through COVID, if you pay nothing else, pay your mortgage. She's like, if you could defer the credit card payments and the car payments and everything else, do that. But she said, pay your mortgage, do that. Yeah. So unless you absolutely have to. And some people were just doing it just because.
Right.
Or just not paying and not communicating with the bank, that wasn't a good idea either.
Right.
So.
Are there any last words that you want to leave before we close out? Unless, Janora, you have any other questions or anything else?
I do have one last question, if it's okay in terms of time. Chenee, how do you compete with a cash buyer? Like if I'm trying to buy a house and I got my credit together, I got enough for a down payment, but now I'm competing against that cash buyer. Do you have any advice for that scenario?
Usually what I do, I'm not one that won't call a listing agent in a heartbeat and just ask them about their offers that they have in. I'm like, do you have cash? Do you have cash offers coming in? Do you have people over asking that's like crazy? I normally ask, what is the seller looking for? Because sometimes it's not about the cash that the seller's looking for. Sometimes it's not about the highest price. I might find that one seller that's looking for a family or people to come in and really take care of the home and not flip it, tear it down and resell it again. Some sellers, granted they're moving on to other things in life, they still have some type of personal attachment to a property and they want people to come in and take care of that home. They still have pride in it. They love it. They'll miss it, but they don't want to see it like go anywhere, so to speak. So usually I'll have a client submit photos of themselves, the kids, the dog, the cat. It doesn't matter. Sometimes write a personal letter. Tell the seller why you love this home. And if I can shorten some of the terms, like how soon it'll be for the lender to wrap up the loan, get the appraisal done, and get our inspections done, sometimes that helps. And if I can make a shorter escrow period, I'll do that too. And sometimes that helps. And sometimes it doesn't. And then we keep on looking.
Right. Let me just ask you.
Yeah.
Does it matter? I was watching D.L. Hughley when he was trying to. I think he talked about this where he was going to sell his house, And he wasn't getting any offers until he removed all of his Black art.
Mm.
And then he started getting buyers and blah, blah, blah. Is that important to move? Yeah, to remove your Black. Does it, hinder you, help you if you have it up?
Okay, what I usually do, I don't tell anyone to remove art or decorative items. I do tell them to probably remove as much personal items as possible, family photos, personal photos, stuff like that. You want a home. I tell people, when you walk into a house, how do you want to view it? How do you want to feel? You don't want it to be overwhelming. You don't want it to look cluttered and messy. So one, I tell a homeowner to do that. I would never tell a homeowner to remove their Black art or whatever. I just wouldn't. We have a seller right now in Moreno Valley. She's got a big old Obama picture up in her house. I could have a Trump-loving person come in there and want to buy the house. That could be a problem. I don't know. But, I mean, it's kind of against the law. Not against it's against our code of ethics to even advise a seller to do something like that. Mm-hmm. The best thing I can do is say depersonalize as much as possible. Mm-hmm. But I would never advise them to do that. Can that have an effect on a buyer? Maybe, but in my opinion, that's a buyer losing out on a property, and that's just not the buyer you want to deal with in escrow, in my opinion.
No, that's a good point. Okay.
Yeah.
Any last words you want to leave with everyone?
I just want people to know that it's not impossible to own property. It may seem like it is. I tell people, do not watch HGTV and $1 Million This and Selling Sunset and think that it's just all these rich white people running around buying property. It's not. It's very possible for Black people to own a home, whether it be a condo, 1-bedroom condo, or a studio, to a big, beautiful home in the suburbs. Whatever they want, we can help you achieve it. There's stuff out there for you. The programs are there. You just got to inquire and just got to take that step. I mean, the worst that can be said is no, you can't do it right now. You can be put on a plan to make it happen later.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's just do our Black Person of the Week because we just have to. Every week, we honor somebody who is doing something wonderful in the community. And so we would love to honor this particular person. 1 second. I'm going to bring it up. There we go. Guess we should take your ticker off. There we go.
Okay.
There. So this is our BPS Person of the Week, is a father who decided to secure his daughter's financial future by buying a house for her on her 13th birthday. Earlier this year, Ashanti Shabazz surprised his daughter with a brand new home to put her on a path to financial freedom. In a message written on social media, Ashanti said that this marks the beginning of a family tradition where Shabazz will be gifted a house on their 13th birthdays and taught to build it into multiple properties before they are legal adults. He goes on to say, let's put our children in a position to be free to live how they choose while they're young and full of life. And so I echo those sentiments. So to Ashanti Shabazz, for your foresight and investment in the financial freedom of your family and those generations to come, you are our BPS Person of the Week. I'm your host, Chrystee Pharris, and that was This Week in Black People Shit. Let me take that banner down. Again, we want to thank Yolanda and sorry, just about to choke. Chenee, I'm gonna let you close it out for me, Janora. Go ahead. Before I start coughing,
We want to thank the sisters that brought it to Chenee and Yolanda. It's just empowering. Every week, I say something about representation and images and how they matter. So you and Yolanda are changing the game by showing up as dope as you are. So thank you for the information you shared. Thank you for everyone who chimed in and asked a question, made a comment. Sabrina, Kathy, Joanne, Laurie, the whole crew. We see you out there and appreciate you checking in, and those who, again, check in week to week. That's you, Chrystee. You good?
I'm good.
Yeah,
I was about to choke
your, your throat okay? You good?
Yeah, I was like,
You're parched.
Yes. Again, we do want to thank you, everybody, for chiming in. Next week, we are going to have a personal trainer. He has trained me in the past. He does a lot of celebrities, but this man, Will Thompson, had I think like stage 4, stage 5 prostate cancer. And I literally watched him heal himself by changing his diet and watched all of his cancer cells shrink to basically nothing. So we are going to have him on the show. So if you know anybody who is struggling, who has cancer, who's dealing with tumors, anything like that, please make sure you tune in. Make sure you tell them. It's going to be an amazing show. I hooked him up with another friend of mine right now, and his cancer cells are now shrinking because he's changed certain things. So I can't wait to have this brother on. We look forward to seeing you again. Again, we thank our guests, Janora and Abdul, for holding us down, for coming every single week and being a part of this. I really appreciate you guys. Love you. And we are out. Good night, everybody. Share it.
Good night.
Share it. Bye.